Self-discipline is developed gradually through freely chosen work. We know that when a child is able to select their own activity, we're going to have higher levels of engagement. When we have those high levels of engagement, we get concentration. Concentration is an element that is necessary for the development of self-discipline. So the child needs freedom in order to begin this process of the development of self-discipline. But the child has to have our trust in the works that they're choosing to occupy themselves. We can also call the freedoms of the child the liberties of the child. And you'll hear this term interchanged as you're reading Dr. Montessori's work. So the liberties of the child are to choose, to explore, and to move, to care for themselves, to work at their own pace, to communicate and express themselves, to go outside if they need to. These are very basic freedoms that a child has to have in our prepared environments to begin this process of self-discipline. Knowing how important freedom is to this process, new teachers often give too much freedom too soon to new children. We want to be able to give gradual, increasing levels of freedom, and this allows the child to acclimate to their new environment. We always start with grace and courtesy, so the child gets to come to an understanding of how we behave socially in this environment. We want to give a lot of practical life. This is a good place for a child to begin to start making decisions on activities that they would like to do. And this is usually the first place where the child comes to understand a 3-step cycle of work. I'm going to choose a work, I'm going to take the work, and I'm going to put the work away. Now, freedom must have limits. In fact, limits are the guardians of freedom. And limits are so important that I want to spend a little time to specifically talk just about them. Limits assist the child in developing self-discipline because they allow the child to understand the expectations for their behavior. These are expectations in regards to other children or social, in regards to the physical, and in regards to their environment. We can think of limits like guardrails on a bridge. Those guardrails are there to keep us safe. Well, limits also help us make safer choices. I'd like to start with social limits. And there can be many social limits. I'm going to give you the 2 big ones. The first is that a child may not harm another or themselves. And when I talk about harm, I mean physical harm, and I'm also talking about emotional harm. Conflicts are going to arise, and this is why we have grace and courtesy to assist the child in learning the skills for conflict resolution. We don't leave them on their own to do this. We are there for support. Another social limit is that children may not disturb a child that's working. We are always watching for concentration because we know how important it is in the construction and development of a child. Every child deserves to work in a concentrated state until they decide that they're done. I would like to offer a physical limit, and this has to do with movement, specifically running in the classroom. Running in the classroom can be a disruption and it can be unsafe. We want the child to have the freedom of movement, but we also want to emphasize controlled movement. This is going to help the child gain an awareness of their body within their own space. You're going to find that there are many limits when it comes to the physical materials of the classroom. I'm only going to offer you a few. One of them is that a child may not take a material from the shelf unless they've had a lesson on it. Truly, without the lesson, the child is not going to get the information that was intended from that material. It's important for us to be able to see how a child receives a lesson after we give it. This is one of the reasons why it is important that they can select anything in the classroom that they've already had a lesson on, but they have to wait for the ones they haven't had that lesson on. Next, things are returned from where they were taken. This supports the sense of order for all of the children and also supports that orientation to the classroom. Materials are also handled with respect and care, which means no abuse is allowed. And we always need to watch for this. If it's something that you see a child really being rough with materials, it's best to help them put them away and find something else that may be more suitable for what they're showing you. With a clear understanding of the limits in the classroom, the child can really start to make good, independent choices for themselves, and they're starting to feel some solid success.